Hey folks, this is Google Apps Script's Calendar app to beginners. AppScript is Google's version of the JavaScript programming language, and it allows you to augment or automate Google productivity apps such as Documents, Sheets, Slides, Gmail, or your calendar. So the focus of this run of videos is going to be running through scenarios that you might look to implement in your day-to-day life and how you could automate for them. The only requirement for this series is that you have a Gmail account, which will give you access to Google Drive and Google Calendar. We're going to begin by opening up Drive. It's my recommendation that anytime you undertake a project, whether it's in Google Drive or on your local machine or in any situation, that you create a folder or a directory where you can store all your materials. So the first thing that we're going to do is create a project folder. You can do so by going up to the upper left-hand corner of the screen and selecting New and selecting New Folder. I like to use keyboard shortcuts whenever possible, so I'm going to be dictating to you what I do as I move through this lesson. One caveat is that I am using a Mac and I am located in the United States. So there might be some variation based upon your machine or where you're located. I apologize in advance if I say something that doesn't apply to you, but I'll do my best to denote differences when possible. So the keyboard shortcut for creating a new folder in Drive is using Control-C and then hitting F. And that will give you this new prompt where you can create a new folder. You'll also get this prompt if you go to New and create new folder. I'm going to call this folder CalendarApp Lesson. Hit Enter, and I'm going to open up the folder. We're going to go back to the upper left-hand corner where we'll select New and navigate to the More drop-down. We're going to be using an unbound AppScript project, which means that it wasn't directly created from another productivity application. So for example, if you create a new Google Doc, a sheet, a slide, a form, or a drawing, you have the ability to create an AppScript file that is bound to that file. That opens up some functionality where you can just use the active file that you're in. So we're not going to have that ability, but there's really not much difference between an unbound and a bound AppScript. So we will select a new project. This prompt is just saying to you that anyone with edit access to the folder that this file is stored in can edit or execute the AppScript file. So they're basically just saying, hey, anybody can push play who has access to this folder, so make sure you're good with that. We are good with that, and we are going to create our script. When you create a new AppScript project, you are going to have a code.gs file by default. GS stands for Google Script. You will have a boilerplate set of code for a function called myFunction. Within AppScript, you need to have a function in order to compile your code. So, I write stuff in Python. You don't need to have a function in Python in order to run your code. That is not the case in AppScript. So if you want to write logic, you're going to need to have some type of function in this structure in order for you to execute your code. You're also going to have an untitled project. So let's rename that to something relevant to what we're doing. For my purposes, this is the Calendar App Lesson. So I'm going to hit Enter. You can call this whatever you want to. Now, in addition to a script file, a GS file, you also have the ability to create HTML files. So that'll just give you some boilerplate HTML. And you can use that if you're developing something for the web, or if you want to develop an app and you want to have HTML code there in order to design your user interface. For our purposes, I'm going to be creating script files for each lesson in this series. So I am going to navigate to the Files menu. I'm going to hit that plus, and I'm going to add a new script file. So when you add a new script file, it will show up as untitled. You have the ability in your files directory to sort files alphabetically. The way that this works is that it is ordered by numbers first, capital letters second, lowercase letters third. And then each of those go in order. So 0, 1, 2 is the ordering for numbers, A, B, C for letters. And then the capital letters are prioritized over the lowercase letters. So for example, code.gs has a capital C. So my project directory for this lesson is going to have prefixes. So I'm going to have a underscore create underscore event. I'm going to hit enter. That's going to be the focus of today's lesson. We're going to learn how to create a new calendar event using CalendarApp. So I'm going to begin by clearing out the boilerplate my function, and I am going to create my own function. So I'm going to type out the word function, and I'm going to call it create capital E event. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. This is where you can declare arguments or inputs. So if you want to use your function throughout your application, you have the ability to do so. I do not plan to use this function throughout my lesson, so I am not going to have any inputs in there. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard, and I'm going to hit space. I'm going to open up a set of curly brackets. This is where I am going to script my logic out. I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm going to add 2 slashes so that I can add a comment. And I am going to begin by accessing the calendar app. I'm going to hit enter and tab. I'm going to declare a variable called cal, or no, I'll call it event. And I'll set it equal to capital C calendar app dot. So CalendarApp is going to be the focus of this lesson and this series of lessons. So you're going to use it in every video from here on out. So when you use CalendarApp with a period, you open up all of these classes and methods that allow you to do things relative to your calendar. We want to use create capital E event. But if you'd like to learn more about some things that you can do with CalendarApp, I suggest that you pause the video and just kind of scroll through all of these things. We are not going to go through everything within CalendarApp, but I am going to do my best to kind of cover as much ground as possible to make this a substantive beginner introduction to things that you can do. So we're going to begin with just creating a new event. So in order to open up the options available with this event or this method, we are going to have an open set of parentheses. And AppScript will provide you with a brief overview of what this method allows you to do. So this method has 3 arguments that are listed here, which is an indication that they are mandatory. So the first thing that we're going to enter is the title of the event. So that is the name of the event, the start time, and the end time. And the start and end time both need to be structured as dates. I want to point out this portion of the documentation here that denotes that if no time zone is specified, the time values are interpreted in the context of the script's time zone. So that means when your script runs, your time zone will dictate what is sent to the calendar. The calendar's time zone might be different than yours. So if you need to take that into account, then you are going to want to declare the time zone when entering the start time and the end time. Cool. So we're going to run through this, and we will begin by clicking inside of the parentheses and then hitting enter. So the first argument is the name of the event, and it needs to be structured as a string. I'm going to use single quotes because I don't plan on using apostrophes or anything like that. So I'm just going to call this new calendar event. And I'll add an exclamation point. And you know what? I'll make it a capital E. It doesn't matter. Some things that I want to point out in, when deciding whether you want to use single quotes or double quotes, because you're working with a calendar event, you might have apostrophes or quotation marks for various reasons, right? So here's an example of like where you might use an apostrophe, right? So right now this event is called new calendar event. If you want something like it's a new calendar event, you'll see that I'm now getting an error. Now, the reason for this is because this quotation mark here thinks that this quotation mark here is the end of the string. So if you want to use an apostrophe or like a conjugated word, I believe that's correct. My apologies if my grammar is wrong. Instead of using single quotes, you can use double quotes. So you can see now I used double quotes. It's a new calendar event, and I no longer have issues. Now, an instance where you might have the inverse problem is when you have something like a new calendar event and you want to put the like quotation marks around a word there, right? So now you see that we have the exact same problem, but it's with double quotes, which is we have this set of quotes thinking that it's the end and close of this pairing here and not identifying that this is a full string here. So instead of doing double quotes, you could do a single quote like that, and then it works. So that's not like really important with the calendar app, but given that you are working with a string and these events might have, unique names relative to what you're trying to do, it is a consideration when thinking about what type of quotation mark you're using and how to manage potential errors that may come up depending upon what the name needs to be. The second argument of create event is the start time, and this needs to be structured as a date. So if we scroll down the documentation, you can see that the example that Google gives us is that you use new and then date to appropriately pass a date to create event. So we are going to mimic that, and we are going to do new date, and then we're going to open up parentheses. New date is a fairly malleable method. So you have three different ways that you can enter values here. You can either enter a value as a string, a number, or a date. So you don't need to do this. I'm going to do it because the documentation doesn't show up very well in here. So for example, check it out. I open up these parentheses like that, and then I move down here, and you can see that the documentation is cut off. We can't see it. So I'm just going to move this down a little bit so that you can. And basically, you have the ability to enter date so that you could do year, comma, month index, comma, date number, comma, hours number, minutes number, seconds number, milliseconds number. So you can build your date individually with each value. Whereas if you look at the documentation for create event here, I'll just add a comma so that we can look at it. You can see that they are also using new date as a string. So you have a couple different ways that you can do it. So I'll show you both ways just so that you can figure out which one is best for you. I'm going to reorganize my code here. So in my calendar, I want to create an event for May 28th, 2024. And I want it to be at 2 p.m. My time. So what I could do is type in 2024, comma, and the second argument here is month number between 0 and 11. And the reason for that is because it is an index that starts at 0. So if you want January, it's 0. If you want February, it's 1. If you want March, it's 2. If you want April, it's 3. And if you want May, it's 4. So because I want to do May, I'm going to do 4. The next argument is the date as a number between 1 and 31. So I want to do May 28th. So I'm just going to enter in a 28. I'm going to add a comma. Then you have the ability to enter the hours as a number between 0 and 23. So if you want 2 p.m. like I do, that would be 14. If you wanted midnight, it would be 0. And if you wanted 11 p.m., it would be 23. So again, I want 2 p.m., so I'm going to enter in 14. So I can just stop here because I just want it to be at 2 hours on the 28th of May, 2024. So I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to hit enter. And now I'm going to move to the final mandatory argument, which is the end time. So I'm going to enter a new capital D date, open parentheses. I'm going to do a very similar thing. So I'm going to do 2024, 4 for the month, 28 for the day. And then I want it to end at 3:15. So I am going to do 15 because it is on a 23 hour cycle. Where on 0 is midnight, 23 is 11 p.m. So 12 plus 3 is 15. We're going to also have it end at 15 minutes. So that one's real easy because it's 0 to 59. So we'll add in a 15 here. I'm going to hit save. You can see that my calendar does not have any invites there. And I'm going to hit run. We are now going to have a prompt that asks us to authorize access to our calendar. So you're just going to select your account, and then you're going to get this message here that just says that Google hasn't verified the app or the underlying code. You'll click advanced, and it's just telling you that, like, if you don't know what this code does or who this developer is, then be very careful about running it because you're going to give them full permission to your calendar, which will allow them to read everything and delete everything. So they just want you to make sure that you're okay with what you're doing here. So then you select this prompt down here, and then this is where you will authorize to allow this application to see, edit, share, and permanently delete all the calendars you can accessing Google Calendar. I'm okay with that because I'm the one developing the logic, and I know that I am not building anything malicious. But that is a very important warning if you are copying code from a forum or from a generative AI. You just want to make sure you know what it does before you run it. So I'm going to go to my calendar, and now you can see I have a new calendar event that begins on Tuesday, May 28th, 2024 from 2 p.m. to 3:15 p.m. It's wonderful. I'm going to delete it because I don't need it anymore. Now, new date, in addition to having this structure, also allows us to enter things as a string. So for example, I could just type in May 28th, comma, 2024 space and set it to be 14:00:00. And then I could also do that down here where I get rid of all these numbers. I add single quotes and I do May 28th, 2024 space 15:15:00 and hit run. And this will do literally the exact same thing. So you can see that new event popped up here the exact same way the other one did. So there's really no difference between the two. I wanted you to be aware of it because you might be dealing with some type of input method from like a Google Sheet or a Google form where it might be easier for you to process the data in the first method, where it's just like get the year, get the month, get the day, all that type of stuff. So I just want you to be aware that you have some modularity here when you approach these things. Now, in addition to the mandatory arguments, if you go to the end time line, which is line 7 in this example, and you add a comma, then you open up this optional fourth options argument for create event. I'm going to hit enter. And options is structured as an object. So you're going to have to use object notation in order to implement these inputs. So I'm going to scroll down the documentation so that you can see it. So when you're working with object notation, you have curly brackets. So you can see here there's a comma for that after the end date, right? So we have the event name, the start time, the end time, and now we are in the options portion of the input where we have these curly brackets here, and then we have a key, which in this case is location. We have a colon, and then we have a value, in this case, the moon. Now, the challenge with this options portion is, so I'm going to enter in curly brackets now. I'm going to hit enter for readability purposes. I personally like having individual lines like this. That way I can easily scan what's been entered. You'll notice that we don't have any recommendations coming up. There is no autocomplete when you are working with this portion of create event. You are going to need to work from the documentation. I'm going to link this up in the description, but I am referencing developers.google.com/appscript, and then I'm referencing the calendar event documentation for create event. So you can see here we have the documentation that appears in Google Apps Script, right? Our title, our start time, our end time, our options, the note about the time zone being specified, and then that Apollo 11 landing example down here. So you'll see that we have our 3 parameters, which we've already entered, and now we are on the object portion, the options portion, where we have advanced parameters, which are listed below. So you'll see that we have 4 advanced parameters, which is we can add the description of the event as a string. We can add the location of the event as a string. We can add guests as a comma-separated list of email address for all the emails that we want to invite for guests. And then we can also have a Boolean, which means it's either true or false input for whether or not invites are sent via email. And the documentation says that this defaults to false. So if you do not include send invites, then there will be no invites sent. So let's go back to our app script and start entering in these values. So the first thing that we're going to do is location. So you type out the word location, and then you add a colon, and you hit space, and you add single quotes for the value that you want to enter. So my event is located in Philadelphia. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a comma, and I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to hit escape because I do not need to see the documentation anymore. And now I'm going to enter a description. So I'm just typing description with a colon, and then I'm going to add single quotes. I'm going to say this event is an example of how to create a calendar event using AppScript. Cool. Then I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a comma. I'm going to hit enter, hit escape because I don't need that documentation. And then I'm going to add some guess. So I just type in the word guess, hit a colon, add a colon, hit space, add single quotes. So all of your guess will appear within this set of single quotes, and they will be separated by commas. So I'm going to use some email aliases for myself. So I'm going to do mattbrigidi.dev plus example@gmail.com, and I'm going to use a comma, and I'm going to do mattbrigidi.dev plus 1@gmail.com. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard, and I'm going to add a comma. I'm going to hit enter and escape, and then I'm going to add send capital I invites colon, and I'll set it to true. Remember, this defaults to false. So if you don't include it, then it won't send invites. At least that's what the documentation says. Cool. So we are going to hit save, and then we are going to run. And you can see we compiled our code without error. We have this new calendar event here, which has a location, which it did not have before. And we have 2 guests. The first one is mattbrigidi.dev plus 1@gmail.com. And then we have mattbrigidi.dev plus example@gmail.com. And then you can see we have a description here that says this event is an example of how to create a calendar event using AppScript. Cool. So all of that worked exactly as we wanted to. One final thing that I want you to be aware of that really doesn't matter, but it's just kind of good to know. If you want to add line breaks to your descriptions, you can use, I believe this is a // I apologize. So you do a /n for one line break, /n for a second line break, and then you can say, check it out, this description has a line break now, and then you can do, sorry, I have a typo there, you can do /n/n, how cool. Cool, and we'll see. I always mess up with the like spaces here, but now I'm going to delete this event, and I'm going to run my code again, and it works without error. And eventually we'll have a new one here. Let's refresh. Cool, there it is. And now you can see that we have those line breaks here, right? You can see this event is an example of how to create a calendar event using app script. Check it out. This description has a line break now. How cool. Wonderful. So I think that's the basics if you are attempting to work with CalendarApp. I think the majority of the stuff that you're going to want to do will center around creating events. And this is how you go about doing it. We're going to resume by navigating to the Files menu, where we'll add a new script file. You can call this file whatever you want. I'm going to call mine b_all_day_event. I'm going to hit enter. That's the focus of today's lesson. We are going to learn how to create an all-day event. I'm going to begin by clearing out the boilerplate code, and I will be creating a function called all_D day. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. I will not be using this function anywhere else in my project, so I don't have to pass any arguments. Therefore, I'm going to be leaving it blank. I'll hit the right arrow on my keyboard and hit space. I'm going to add a set of curly brackets. I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment. I'm going to hit space, and then I'm going to say access the calendar app. I'm going to hit enter and tab. I'm going to declare a variable. You can use any name you want to. I'm going to be using the word event. I'm going to set that word equal to C, calendar, A, app. I'm going to add a period. We're going to be creating an all-day event, so I am going to select create A, all, D, day, E, event. Create all-day event. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses, which will open up this prompt with some high-level documentation about what is required to use the create all-day event method. This method takes 3 arguments. 2 of them are mandatory and 2 of them are optional. The first mandatory argument is the title of the event, and that needs to be structured as a string. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to hit my escape key to remove the documentation. You can use single quotes or double quotes. As mentioned in the first lesson, you're going to want to pick quotation styles that align with the name of the event. So if you want to use special characters, double quotes might be best for you, single quotes might be best for you. I elaborate on that in that video. For my purposes, I'm just going to use single quotes, and I'm going to call this new calendar event. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard and add a comma, which moves us to the second mandatory argument, which is the date when the event takes place. In the high-level documentation, there is an example here with an event called Apollo 11 landing, and the date field is entered as new date, and then it's passed as a string. So we are going to hit enter, and we are going to follow that documentation by typing the word new, D, date, and then we're going to open up a set of parentheses, which provides us with documentation about the date class or method. So this allows you to pass values in a couple different ways. You can use a string, a number, or a date. So if we scroll down a little bit, we'll get more documentation here that is very difficult to see. So I'm going to open that up again. So basically, you can enter date as the individual components. So in the documentation, we saw that they entered a date like this. So I want to create an event for May 28th, 2024, right? So I'm going to hit save. I'm going to go here. You can see I don't have any calendar events there. And I'm going to hit run. And that works. You can see that I now have a calendar event for Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. I'm going to delete that event. I'm going to go back to my date method here. So this is one way to do it, where you can add single quotes and then literally just type out the date. So the other option that's available to you is to pass in the individual components. So my year is 2024, so I enter that as an integer, which means I don't have any quotation marks around it. I add a comma and hit space. The next argument is the month index. That also needs to be entered as a number or an integer. Now, the important thing about month index is that it has a 0 index, which means that the first value is 0. So in the case of months, January is represented by a 0. February is represented by a 1. March is represented by a 2. April is represented by a 3. And May is represented by a 4. So month index has a 0 index, which is different than an index that starts at 1. So because I want to use May, I'm going to enter in a 4. Even though it is the 5th month on the calendar, in an index that starts at 0, it is 4. I'm going to add a comma and then the date number. So I want to do May 28th, so I'm just going to enter in 28. So this is going to do the same thing, and I'm going to change this from being new calendar event to be new calendar event numbers, and I'm going to hit save and run. And now you can see that we have this new calendar event called new calendar event, all caps numbers, exclamation point, but it's still showing up for Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. So it really doesn't matter what you use. The reason that I wanted to show you this was because if you're feeding this in from a larger program where you have like a spreadsheet or a Google form or an email or something, you might need different ways of creating calendar events, and it's always good to know that you have a couple options at your disposal. So I'm going to change this event name back to new calendar event. I prefer to use the string option because it's just easier to read. And then I am going to realign my code so that I am on line 3. Cool. So we're going to go to line 6, which is after the start date. And we're going to add a comma and we're going to hit enter. This is the first optional argument. So this allows you to have a multi-day, all-day event. So you can see in the documentation down here that this creates an all-day event for the Woodstock Festival, August 15th to the 17th. And you can see that the event name is Woodstock Festival. The start date is August 15th, 1969, and the end date is August 18th, 1969. That's because they want it to go all the way through the end of the 17th, so it will end on the 18th. So with that in mind, let's do an all-day calendar event that starts on the 28th, goes through the 29th, and stops on the 30th. So it'll be an all-day event for Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday will be open. So in following with the documentation, we're going to pass the word new, capital D, date, and then we are going to use single quotes, May space 30, comma, 2024. And the reason that we're doing that is because we want this to go from May 28th to the 29th, and we want it to stop on the 30th. So I'm going to hit save and run. I'm going to refresh my calendar. Oh, it did it before I even refreshed it. And now you can see that we have this new calendar event across 2 days, that spans the 28th and the 29th, and then the 30th, 31st, and the 1st are free. Wonderful. Going to delete that. The second and final optional argument is the options array, or the options object, my apologies. So basically this is, these are advanced parameters that require object notation. So they're going to be structured within curly brackets. Additionally, they are not going to have any documentation recommendations. So for example, I'm going to add curly brackets and I'm going to hit enter, and you can see that nothing is being recommended there. So you can see though that in the documentation here we have location as an option and we have send invites as an option. So if you want to learn more about all of the options that are available to you, you're going to have to consult the developer documentation. So the advanced parameters for calendar event, which is the same for all day event, is description, location, guests, and send invites. So you have the ability to add a description for the event, a location for the event, a guest list that is comma separated, and then a Boolean option of whether you send invites, where the send invitations is defaulted to false. So if you don't enter anything, it will not send invites. So let's do a little bit of experimentation here. So the first thing that we're going to do is add a location. So you can see I typed out the word location and no recommendations came up for how to use this. So, I'll type location, you add a colon, hit space, add single quotes or double quotes, it doesn't matter, and then you pass a string. So my event is going to be located in Philadelphia. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a comma. I'm going to hit enter. The next thing that I'm going to enter is the description. And again, you're not getting any recommendations for this, so you're going to have to do it without guidance from AppScript. So we'll add a colon after description. We'll use single quotes or double quotes, and we'll say this is a 2-day event located at CBP, which is the baseball stadium in Philadelphia. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, add a comma, hit enter. We also have the ability to add guests. So we'll use the word guests with a colon, space, and we pass that through a string. So single quotes or double quotes, and all of the guests need to be comma separated within the same string. So I'm going to send invites to mattbrigidi.dev plus alias at gmail.com, and then I'm going to add a comma there and use mattbrigidi.dev plus 1 at gmail.com. Cool. So I am going to now hit run and wait for my calendar to create that 2-day event. And now you can see we have this new calendar event from May 28th to May 29th, 2024. It's located in Philadelphia. There are 2 guests. Let's see if we can pull up their emails, mattbrigidi.dev plus 1 and mattbrigidi.dev plus alias. And then we have this is a 2-day event located at Citizens Bank Park, the baseball stadium in Philadelphia. We'll resume by navigating to the Files menu, where we will add a new script file. You can call your file whatever you want to. I'm going to call mine C_event_recurring, and I hit enter. The focus of today's lesson will be creating a recurring calendar event. You can leave the boilerplate code that you see on the screen here. I'm going to clear it out, and I'm going to begin by creating a function called event, capital R, repeat. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. If you have aspirations of creating an application or a program and you want to add some automation elements, this is the spot where you will add some input variables or arguments that your function can use in order to process code more than once. I don't have any aspirations of doing that in today's lesson, so I'm going to leave this space blank. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard, hit space, add a set of curly brackets, and then hit enter twice. The first thing I'm going to do is add 2 slashes for a comment where I will establish the end date of the event. I'm going to hit enter and tab. So an element of a recurring event is defining when the event stops recurring. We are going to create a variable, which you can call whatever you want to. I'm going to call mine meet capital E end. So we are going to define a date when the event stops repeating. In order to do that, we are going to type the command new capital D date. And then we are going to use date in order to establish an end date to our meeting. So on my Google Calendar, I want to create a reoccurring event the week of May 27th. And I want the event to stop recurring after the 31st. So starting on June 1st, I no longer want this event to be recurring. So I'm going to go back to my script and I am going to pass quotation marks and I'm going to type June 1, 2024. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard twice and I'm going to add a semicolon. I'm going to hit enter twice and I want my cursor on line 6 to be aligned with line 3. So I'm going to hit Shift Tab. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment. The next thing that we're going to do is define the recurring schedule. I'm going to hit Enter and Tab. We're going to declare another variable, which you can call whatever you want to. I'm going to call this variable Schedule, which is short for schedule. And I'm going to set it equal to capital C, calendar, capital A, app. I'm going to add a period, which opens up the native methods associated with calendar event. And I'm going to type new recurrence. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses, which provides some documentation about how to use new recurrence. This documentation is creating a constant called reoccurrence, and it's setting it equal to CalendarApp.newReoccurrence.addWeeklyRule.only on weekday, and then it's saying only on Wednesday, and it wants to keep reoccurring until January 1st, 2014. So you can see that instead of us passing that meet end into the new reoccurrence, we are just going to establish it as a variable. That way, if we want to change the end date of the meeting, we have an easier way of doing it than having to do it in until. But it really doesn't matter which way you do it. So we are going to begin by going to the right of the new reoccurrence method and adding a dot. This opens up a set of native options or methods available to new reoccurrence. So you can add daily exclusion, add daily rule, add date exclusion, add monthly rule. There's lots of stuff here that you can use. For my purposes, I want this to be daily because this is just a week of recurring meetings. So I'm going to add daily rule. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses, and you can see that add daily rule also gives you the option of times. So if you want to, for example, like we'll do this real quick, you can do dot times, open up, and then you could have this reoccurrence 3 times, right? So that's an easy option that's available to you if you just need 3 daily meetings or 3 weekly meetings or 3 monthly meetings, whatever it is that you're doing. We are going to go to the right of add daily rule, the dot add daily rule, and we're going to hit enter. This way it's just a little bit easier to kind of read things. We are going to continue by using dot and only on weekdays. And this will now allow us to establish weekdays that we want this event to reoccur. So we can use an array in order to add multiple days. So we can add square brackets here, and then we'll use CalendarApp again, and we'll do dot weekday dot, and then you see we have all the days of the week. So we will have this reoccur on Wednesday as well as Friday. So we did new reoccurrence dot add daily rule dot only on weekdays. And then within only on weekdays, we added a square bracket, which allows us to construct an array or a list. And then we used CalendarApp dot weekday dot Wednesday, comma, CalendarApp dot weekday dot Friday in order to establish 2 days that we want our reoccurring meeting to take place. We're going to go to the left of only on weekdays and we're going to hit enter. That way we have this nesting structure here where we can see everything that's going on with the schedule variable. We're going to add a dot, and now we are going to type until. And this is where we will establish when our reoccurring meeting ends. And we can pass the variable from line 4, which is called meet end. I'm going to go to the right before dot until, and I'm going to hit enter. So we have now established the schedule for our reoccurring meeting. We're going to go to the end of line 10, hit enter twice, and we want to align our cursor with line 6, so we're going to hit shift tab, and we're going to add 2 slashes for a comment. And now we are going to create our event. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to declare a variable called event, and we're going to set it equal to CalendarApp dot create event series. We're going to open up a parentheses, and create event series is very similar to creating an event or an all-day event in that you have the title, the start time, the end time, and then a reoccurrence schedule. So you have 4 arguments that get passed to create event series. So we're going to hit enter, and we're going to move into the first argument, which is the name of our event. So we'll use single quotes or double quotes and do event series. Hit the right arrow on our keyboard, add a comma, hit enter. We now have to pass the start time that is structured as a date. So we will do new, capital D, date, open up a set of parentheses. We'll use single quotes, and we are going to start our event on May 28th, 2024. And we are going to add a time too. So we'll have this be a reoccurring meeting on Wednesdays and Fridays that begins on May 28th, 2024. And we're going to have it set at 2 p.m. So we're going to do 14:00:00. We're going to go to the end of line 15. We're going to add a comma, which moves us into our third argument, which is the end time. So we'll hit escape on our keyboard so we can see our code, and we will type new, capital D, date, open parentheses, single quote, and we're going to have this be a 75-minute meeting on starting on May 28th, 2024. So we'll do May 28th, 2024, 15:15:00. Cool. So then we are going to go to the end of line 6. We're going to add a comma. We're going to hit enter. And now we are in the fourth and final mandatory argument, which is the reoccurrence of the calendar event. This is where we are going to use our schedule variable so that we have this nice clean code base here where our reoccurrence is in a place where if we need to make changes to it, it's not part of this giant block here. This is just a preference on my part. You might find it easier to have it all in one place. But the reason I saved in the variable is now you have the different components of this function in ways where anybody can come in and kind of see what's happening, right? So you can see that the end date of the event is defined, the reoccurring schedule of the event is defined, and the event itself is defined. So we can hit save now and run, and that worked without issue. I'm going to go to my calendar, and now you can see that we have an event series that begins on May 28th and reoccurs on May 29th, as well as May 31st. And then when we go to the next week, you can see that those events are no longer taking place. So for example, if we wanted to change it so that this event went until the 8th, meaning this week also had reoccurring events, I'm just going to delete mine real quick, just so that you can see. Okay. So what we'll do now is we can change this to be the 8th, and we can hit run. And when I go to my calendar, I'll hit refresh. You can see that we now have those event series that go until June 8th, 2024. It starts on the 28th, which is a Tuesday, and then it reoccurs on Wednesday and Friday. And then when we go to the next week, you can see it reoccurs on Wednesday and Friday, but it stops after the 8th. So there is one more aspect to creating events and reoccurring events, which is an optional aspect of events. So if you go to the last argument, which is the reoccurring schedule of your event series, if you add a comma, this options comes available, and that needs to be structured as an object. So you're going to need to use object notation. This is the same thing that we reviewed in the all-day event and the event creation lesson, where down here we'll get a brief overview of what's available to you, but you're not going to have keyboard hints. So for example, I'm going to hit escape here. You don't have to type this. I just want you to see when you start typing CA, you can see that options start being recommended to you. Cache service, calendar app, card service, all these things are like, hey, AppScript is trying to give you tool hints to make your time easier. So we're going to add a comma after our sketch variable, and we're going to hit enter, and then we're going to open up a set of curly brackets. And you can see that there are no recommendations here. The only way that you are going to know what is available to you is if you consult the developer documentation. So this documentation here is for creating an all-day event, but it doesn't matter because it's the same. You have advanced parameters here for description, location, guess, and send invites. So these are the 4 advanced options that are available when you're creating an event. And just to make sure, you know what, I'm going to scroll up here. I'm going to make this, I'm going to paste this in the description. So we'll click on create event series. And you can see that these options these advanced parameters are the same as creating an event. You have description, which is structured as a string, location that is structured as a string, guess that are comma separated lists of emails that are one string, and then a Boolean, which means it's true or false for whether or not invites are sent to those emails. So we are going to add to our reoccurring meeting schedule here. So the first thing that we are going to do is try location, and you can see location does not come up as a suggestion. So you type location in, you add a colon, and you hit space, and then you add the location as a string. So I'm going to do Philadelphia. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a comma. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to hit escape so that all that prompting disappears. The next thing we're going to do is add a description. So we'll add a colon after that, and then we pass it as a string, and we'll say this event is recurring on certain days. I don't know, it doesn't matter. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, we're going to add a comma, we're going to hit enter, and now we are going to add some guess. So we'll add a colon, and we will do single quotes, and we'll do mattbridgedy.dev plus 1. We add a comma, we hit space. You'll notice that this is all within the same string. So this is not an array. This is a comma-separated string. Oh, sorry. And I'm going to add at gmail.com. After my comma, I'll do mattbridgedy.dev plus 2 at gmail.com. Okay, cool. So we'll hit save and run. worked without error. You can see we have our new event series where the location is available, and it goes all the way until June 8th. And you can see we have our guests here, mappergd.dev +1, +2, and then we have our description, which in this event is recurring on certain days. We'll resume by navigating to the Files menu. We're going to be adding a new script file, which you can call whatever you want. I'm going to call mine d_change_color. And hit enter. You can keep the boilerplate code if you would like. I'm going to clear mine out so that I can create a function called event C color. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. If your function is part of a larger project or application, this is the space where you can add arguments to make automation more easy. I am not going to be exploring any of that today, so I'm going to leave this space blank. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to hit space. I'm going to add a set of curly brackets. I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment. The first thing I'm going to do is create the event. I'm going to hit enter and tab. I'm going to create a variable. You can call your variable anything you want. I'm going to call mine event. I'm going to set it equal to C, calendar, A, app. I'm going to use a period, and then I am going to create event. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. Create event has 3 mandatory arguments and 1 optional argument. I'm going to hit enter and escape on my keyboard. So the first argument is the name of the event. So I'm going to call this event title. It needs to be passed as a string, so you need to use single quotes or double quotes. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard, add a comma, hit enter. The second argument is the start time. So we are going to type in new, D, date. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. I'm going to enter my date as a string. So I'm going to type May 28th, 2024. I'm going to hit space. My start time will be 2 p.m. So I'm going to enter 14:2 zeros:2 zeros. I'm going to hit command right arrow to go to the end of my line, and I will add a comma. We are now moving into the third argument of create event, which is the end time. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to type new, D, date. I'm going to enter my end date. So I'm going to add single quotes here so that I can pass it as a string, and I'm going to have it end on the same day. So we'll do May 28th, 2024, and I want it to end at 3:15. So I will enter 15:15:00. Hit command right arrow on my keyboard, add a comma, and once I do this, I open up a set of options, which need to be structured as an object. So we're going to need to use curly brackets, and we'll use object notation in order to enter these options. So I'm going to hit enter, hit escape. I'm going to add a set of curly brackets. I'm going to hit enter. You'll notice that we are no longer getting any keyboard hints here. I talk about this in earlier lessons in the video, so if you'd like to learn more, check them out. I'm also going to add some developer documentation to the description. But this is the place where you can add location, for example. So I'm going to type location, single quotes, and I'm going to have this in Philadelphia. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a comma. I'm going to hit enter. And now I'm going to add a description with a : space. I'm going to say this demos how to change event colors. And at the right arrow on my keyboard, I'm going to hit the down arrow, and I am going to go to line 12. We're going to hit enter twice. We are going to align our cursor with line 3, so we'll do shift tab. So now you can see that line 3's comment now aligns with line 14. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment. Next thing we're going to do is define our event color. Enter and tab. We're going to declare a variable called event C color, and we're going to set that equal to CalendarApp.eventColor dot. This is where you can pick all of the colors that are available within CalendarApp. So we have blue, we have cyan, we have gray, green, mauve, all these different types of things. So you can pick whatever color you want. I'm going to pick mauve because why not? So once you pick your color, we're going to hit enter twice. We're going to align our cursor with 14 and 3. So we'll use shift and tab, and now you can see we are aligned. We have 2 slashes for a comment, and now we are going to add the color to our event. We're going to hit enter and tab, and now we are just going to reference our event name. So we'll say event, sorry, not our event name. We're going to reference whatever name you chose for the variable on line 4. So in my case, I use the word event, so I'm going to type event, and I'm going to use dot, and then set, capital C, color. Open up a set of parentheses. And you can see in this documentation here that you need to say dot set color calendar event dot event color dot, and then whatever it needs to be. So you don't need to establish a variable for this. I find it easier because then you can see that it's happening, but this is just a personal preference. So either enter this directly in here or reference the variable that you created on line 15. So for my purposes, I'm going to enter event color. I'm going to hit save, and then I am going to run my function. I'm going to go to my calendar. I'm going to go to May 28th, 2024, and now you can see that I have an event with my description and location with the color of mauve, which is apparently purple. So check it out. I'm just going to create another one here. So let's do orange. I'll hit save and run. And I'll go to my calendar and I'll refresh it. And check it out. Now we have an orange event. So this is a straightforward lesson about how to change the color of your events. It's a small thing, but it could be a big thing if this is something that's of interest to you. We'll resume by navigating to the Files menu, where we will be creating a new script file. You can call your file whatever you want. I'm going to call mine e_set_reminder and hit enter. That will be the focus of today's lesson. We are going to learn how to change, set, remove reminders for our events. You can keep the boilerplate code if you would like. I am going to clear mine out and begin by typing out the word function. I'm going to hit space. I'm going to call this function event, capital R, reminders. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. If you are looking to add some automation elements to your application or project, this is the space where you can enter in some variables or arguments that you can pass into your code. I'm not going to be touching on that today, so I can leave this area blank. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to hit space. I'm going to add a set of curly brackets and then hit enter on my keyboard twice. The first thing I'm going to do is add 2 slashes for a comment where I will note that I am creating the event. And hit enter and tab. We are going to declare a variable, which you can call whatever you want to. I'm going to use the word event. And I'm going to set that equal to capital C, calendar, capital A, app. I'm going to hit dot, which will open up all of the native methods associated with CalendarApp. And I will be using the create event method. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. I'm going to hit enter and then hit escape. If you've been following along, we've done this several times, so I'm going to be brief. The first argument is the name of your event. So I'm going to call this new event. I hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a comma. I'm going to hit enter and escape. The second argument is the start date and time of your event. So we're going to use new, capital D, date, and we'll open up a set of parentheses. There are a few different ways that you can pass date time to the date method. I am going to use a string. So I'm going to add a single quote here, and I'm going to add the date of my event, which is May 28th, 2024. I'm going to hit space, and then I'm going to add the time. I want it to be 2 p.m., So I'm going to pass 14 colon 00 colon 00. I'm going to the command key with the right arrow that will bring me to the end of line 6. I'm going to add a comma, which will open up the third argument, which is the end time of my event. I'm going to hit enter and escape, and I'm going to follow the same format as our start time. So I'm going to type new, capital D date. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. I'm going to add single quotes, and then I am going to keep this as a single day event. So I'm going to type in May 28, 2024. I want this event to end at 3:15, so I will add a 15 because it is the 15th hour. I'm going to add a colon, add 15 because that is the minute that I want to stop at, add a colon, and add 0 because I don't care about the milliseconds. I'm going to hit Command on my keyboard and the right arrow, which will bring me to the end of my line. I'm going to add some options to my event, which need to be structured as objects. So I'm going to hit enter and escape. So objects need to be entered using curly brackets so that you can use object notation. I'm going to hit enter for readability purposes. You'll notice that there are no keyboard recommendations here or no editor recommendations here. You'll have to consult the developer documentation to know about all of the advanced parameters. If you've been following along, we've covered them. That documentation will be linked up in the description. For our purposes, I just want you to be aware that this exists. So I'm going to add the location to my event. So I just type the word location and a colon and then single quotes and an event location. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard, add a comma, hit enter, and I'm also going to be adding a description. So I'm just going to type the word description, colon, space, and then just say this event will have no reminder. So now that I've done that, I'm going to hit the down arrow on my keyboard once, down arrow on my keyboard twice. I am now outside of the create event method, and I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm going to align my cursor with the comment on line 3 by hitting shift and tab, and then I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment. So before we go ahead with this, I just want you to see what happens when we create an event. So I'm going to hit save and then hit run. And I'm going to go to my calendar, and you can see that we now have a new event in Philadelphia where the description is this event will have no reminder. Now the problem with that is that we have a reminder here. So you can see 30 minutes before this event, a reminder will be sent to all of the individuals attending this event. So I'm going to delete this event and go back to my calendar app. So this is what we're going to be learning how to do today, which is how to set the reminder, how to change the reminder, and how to remove the reminder. So the first thing that we're going to do is remove the reminder. So we're going to hit enter and tab. So we are going to reference whatever you used as the name of the variable in line 4. So in my case, I used the word event. So I'm going to type event dot, and then I'm going to type remove all reminders. So I'm going to add an open set of parentheses. I'm not going to pass any arguments to it. I'm going to add a semicolon at the end, and then I'm going to hit run. And what this will do is our event, once it populates, just did, you can see it no longer has a reminder down there. So in addition to removing the reminders, you can also set the reminders. So we're going to hit enter, and then we're going to align our cursor with line 14 and line 3. So we're going to hit shift tab, 2 slashes for a comment, and now we are going to set a reminder. I'm going to hit enter and tab. Again, same structure. We're going to reference whatever the name of the variable in line 4 is, and we are going to use a dot, and then we are going to say set, and then, no, that's not the right one. So let's see where our reminders are. We have add SMS reminder, add email reminder, add pop-up reminder. So we have a couple different reminders here. So let's begin with an email reminder. So we'll have an open set of parentheses, and this merely just takes a number, an integer for minutes before. So you can see in the documentations, it says adds an email notification for 15 minutes before the event. That is 15. That's all you have to type in there. And the maximum that you have is 4 weeks, which is 40,320 minutes, and the minimum is 5 minutes. So let's set a 7-minute email reminder before the event. We'll hit run. Cool, go to our calendar event here, and now you can see that we will get 7 minutes before, comma, as email. So we have established an email reminder. What we'll do as well is go to line 18, hit enter, shift tab, and now we will set a pop-up reminder. So we'll hit enter and tab, and we'll do event.add capital P pop-up reminder. And this operates the exact same way as your email reminder. So let's have this set at 15 minutes just for some diversity. So we'll hit save, we'll hit run, and our event pops up. And now you can see we get 7 minutes before as email and then 15 minutes before. So we're just going to get a pop-up on our computer screen that will say, hey, you have a meeting in 15 minutes, and then you'll get an email 7 minutes before. We're going to resume by navigating to the Files menu, where we will be creating a new script file. You can call this file whatever you want to. I'm going to call mine f_event_id, and then I'm going to hit enter. The focus of today's lesson is going to be teaching you how to get the identification number of your event. This will be a stepping stone to other things that you might want to do, such as update your events, delete your events, and just kind of reference your events programmatically. So if you've done any other work with Google Apps Script, you'll know that you can use document IDs, folder IDs, various identification numbers in order to access an object that you want to, manage, right? So if you want to create it, if you want to edit it, if you want to delete it. The challenge with calendar events, you'll notice there is no identification number that is exposed in the URL. If you try to edit the event, there is an identification number here after this event edit portion of the URL. This is in base 64 code. So you would have to go through other steps in order to parse out what this event's identification number is, which in my opinion is not that efficient. So what we're going to be exploring today is figuring out how to programmatically extract the event ID so that you can access it within your program. You can keep the boilerplate code for your file. I'm going to clear mine out. So I'm going to begin by typing function, and I'm going to give my function the name of event capital ID, and I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. If you are looking to explore automation aspects, this is the space where you can add input variables or arguments that will allow you to make your function dynamic and modular. I am not going to be exploring that in today's video, so I can keep this area blank. And hit the right arrow on my keyboard and add a space. I'm going to add a set of curly brackets, and I'll hit enter twice. So the first thing that I am going to do is add 2 slashes and access the calendar. I'm going to hit enter and tab. So we're going to declare a variable. You can call your variable whatever you want to. I'm going to call mine cal, which is short for calendar. I'm going to set it equal to CalendarApp, and then I'm going to use period get default calendar. I'm going to have an open set of parentheses here. So if you want, right now I just want to use the calendar that is associated with this email. If you are trying to access another calendar, there are ways to get calendar. So we use .get. So you can get all calendars, get all own calendars, get calendar by ID, get calendars by name. But basically, you're just going to have to access whatever calendar has the event that you are looking to get an ID from. So for my purposes, I'm just using the calendar that is associated with the email account that I have created this app script with. So I can use get default calendar. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a semicolon. I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm going to align my cursor with the comment on line 3. So I'm going to hit shift tab. I'm going to add 2 slashes for another comment. and I am going to access the calendar events. So I'm going to hit enter and tab. I am going to declare a variable called events. I'm going to set it equal to cal or whatever variable name you used on line 4. I'm going to add a period, and I'm going to say get events for day. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses there. And this is where I am going to enter in a date that will return all events for that day. So you have a couple other options if you wanted to do this. So if we do .get, you can get the event by, you can get events, which I think is just all your events, or you can get it events for day. You could also do get name. I don't think you could actually use get name, actually. I think that would just return a name based upon some other. So for my purposes, I find it most efficient to identify a date for an event that I want to access. So I'm going to pass in new, capital D date, open up a set of parentheses, and then the date of my event is May 28th, 2024. And I'm going to go to the end of the line by hitting Command right arrow, and I am going to add a semicolon. So I'm going to hit enter twice, add 2 slashes for a comment, and now I'm going to add logging for transparency. I'm going to hit enter and tab, logger with a capital L, .log, open parentheses, and then I'm going to pass the variable name from line 7, which in my case is events. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard, I'm going to add a semicolon, and I'm going to hit run. I got an error because I did not save my file, so it attempted to run the boilerplate function of my function, but it was deleted. So I'll hit run now, and now you can see that I got a single calendar event there. So you can see that events returns a list or an array of event objects. So in order for us to access things about this event so that we can kind of drill into it deeper, we're going to have to access each of the event objects. Just so that you can see why that's important, I'm also going to add another event here called test. And when I go back to run, you can see that now I have 2 event objects. And the reason for that is because this is test, and then this is new event, which is the one that I want to access. So at the end of line 10, I'm going to hit enter twice, and I want my cursor aligned with the comments on line 3 and 6. So I'm going to hit shift tab once, shift tab twice, 2 slashes for a comment, and now we are going to loop through the events. I'm going to hit enter and tab. So we're going to use for. So we're going to type the word for, open parentheses, and then we have to declare an iteration variable. Typically, you will see I represent the iteration variable, so I'm going to use I, but you can use any variable name you want to. But I would say that it is highly encouraged to use I, because that will be a very familiar syntax if other people need to use your code. So we're going to say for I in, and then we are going to loop through our events. So you're going to use whatever the variable name is on line 7. In my case, it is the word events. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard once, hit space, add a set of curly brackets, and hit enter. So I am going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and I'm going to log the event name. I'm going to hit enter and tab, and I'm going to add logger.log, open parentheses, and I'm going to add a string. This is merely for display purposes. You don't have to do all this if you don't want to, but you know, I'm just going to walk you through it in the event that you do. So I'm going to say the event is called, and then I'm going to add a colon and a space. I'm going to go to the right of the quotation marks, and I'm going to use a plus symbol. And then I'm going to reference my events variable. So that's from line 7. That's the thing that we are looping through. I'm going to add square brackets, and then I'm going to pass my iteration variable, which in my case is I. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard, and I'm going to use .get capital T title, and then I will have an open set of parentheses. I'm going to hit save, and then I'm going to run my code. And now you can see that the first thing that's logged in the console is line 10, which is just showing us the output from our events variable. And then the next thing is the first iteration from our for loop, where we are saying the event is called, and then we are accessing the events variable. We are accessing each element or item of the events list or array, and then we are getting the title. So you can see the event is called test test. The event is called new event. So we have successfully looped through our events array. We're going to hit at line 15, we are going to go to the end, hit enter twice. We're going to align our cursor with the comment on line 14. We are going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and now we are going to log the event ID. And we are going to hit enter and tab, and we will do logger.log, open parentheses, single quote. We're going to do a similar thing, and I'm going to say the event ID is colon space, go to the right of my quotation marks, hit space, use a plus symbol, hit space, reference your events variable, square bracket, your iteration variable, hit the right arrow on your keyboard and use .get capital ID. And then you'll have an open set of parentheses. And now when we run our loop, you'll see that we get our event array, and then we get the event is called test test, and then we get the event ID is a alphanumeric number at google.com, and then we have our second event with an alphanumeric variable at google.com. So if you want to isolate a single event from a day, what you can do is, for example, I want to get new event, so I'm just going to copy this event ID here. And then I am going to go to line 18. I'm going to hit enter twice. Add, you know what? I'm going to align my cursor with line 17. Add 2 slashes for a comment. And now I'm going to add conditional logic to isolate an event. Hit enter and tab. And I will use an if statement. And I will say if events square bracket I dot get ID is with open parentheses there. So .get ID open parentheses is double equal sign. And then I'm going to add single quotes and then paste in my ID, go to the right, use curly brackets, hit enter. And then I am just going to log the event name like I did on line 14. So I'm just going to paste that in there. Tab that over so that it's aligned. And what I'm going to do is comment out this code here. And I'm going to hit run. And now what's happening is you can see that our events list is returning 2 events, but we have this if conditional here that is establishing that we want this ID here. This is the mechanism that I would recommend using in the event that you want to get calendar events and make changes to calendar events. You know, the challenge with using event names is that names can change, but identification numbers will not. The only way that an identification number will change is if it's deleted. So it makes it a really substantial hook for you to grab onto when attempting to adjust events or alter them. We're going to resume by navigating to the Files menu, where we'll add a new script file. You can call this file whatever you want. I'm going to call mine g_update_event_by_id. I'm going to hit enter. The focus of today's lesson will be updating calendar events using IDs. So we're going to take an event that already exists on your calendar, and we will change things about those events by using the ID. This is a theoretical approach to provide you with an introductory situation with which how to update calendars. I think in a level 2 or 3, you would be using some type of data management application, whether a database or a Google Sheet, to manage your calendar events in a way so that if you want to change a name, you'll have an identification number with it so that you can programmatically manage your calendar. If you're interested in a video like that, please reach out in the comments and I'll put something together. I'm going to begin by clearing out the boilerplate code from my script file. I'm going to create a function called update, capital E, event, capital ID. So this function is called update event ID. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. I will not be passing any inputs to this function because it will be merely used to compile my code. But if you are looking to develop something for an application, this is the area where you can add your variables. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard, I'm going to hit space, and I'm going to add a set of curly brackets. I'm going to hit enter twice, and I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment. The first thing that I will do is access the calendar app. I'm going to hit enter and tab. I'm going to declare a variable. You can use any name you want to. I'm going to use the word cal. And I'm going to set that equal to calendar app. I'm going to use a dot, and then I am going to access the default calendar, and I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. You can access other calendars if you would like to. This will allow you to access the calendar that is directly associated with the email address that you are using within your AppScript project. Here are some examples of other ways to access calendars if you would like to. We have get calendars by name, get all calendars, get own calendar by name, get own calendar by ID, get default calendar. So for my purposes, I'm going to use get default calendar, but dependent upon the situation that you're working with, those other options might be better suited for you. I'm going to add a semicolon at the end of line 4, and then I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm going to use Shift Tab to align my cursor with the comment on line 3, and then I'm going to add 2 slashes. Next, I'm going to access the events in my calendar. I'm going to hit enter and tab. I'll save this to a variable. Again, you can use any word you want. I'm going to use the word events, and I'm going to set that equal to the variable name from line 4. So in my case, it is the word cal. And I'm going to use a dot, and then I'm going to use the get events by day. Oh, sorry, get events for day. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. This method will allow me to search by date for events. So I'm going to go to my Google Calendar, and you can see that I have 2 events on Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. So what I'm going to do is within these parentheses, there is some documentation here that shows you that using get events for today requires the dates to be structured in a particular way. So we're going to use this new date syntax. So we'll type the word new, capital D, date, and then we'll open up a set of parentheses. This allows us to input a date in a couple different ways. I'm going to use the string method. So I'm going to use a set of single quotes, and then I'm going to type May 28, 2024. I'm going to hit Command right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a semicolon. And now this events variable should return an event array with all of the events that take place on this date. So I'm going to hit enter twice, add 2 slashes for a comment, and I'm going to add some logging for transparency. I'm going to hit enter and tab, and I'm going to use capital L logger.log. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses, and I'm going to pass that events variable. I'm going to save my project, and then I'm going to hit run. And you'll see that the output in my logging console is an array of calendar event objects. So when you get something like this, it means that you're going to have to access the individual items from your array using some type of loop. So if you want to get the title of your event, if you tried to do events dot, you'll see that you get some list methods in here, like concat and fill and every and find and for each and all that type of stuff. So if you want to get like the name or the ID of your event, you are going to have to loop through it individually and access each item in order to open up other CalendarApp methodologies or methods. So we're going to resume on line 10. I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm going to align my cursor with the comments on lines 3 and 6. So I'm going to hit Shift Tab on my keyboard once, and now I'm aligned with line 9. And I'm going to hit Shift Tab again, and now I'm aligned with lines 3 and 6. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and I am going to loop through the events variable. I'm going to hit enter and tab. I'm going to use a for loop. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. For requires you to establish an iterable variable. Typically, you will see the letter I. So I'm going to use for I, and I'm going to use the command in, hit space, and then I'm going to use the name of the variable on line 7. In my case, the name is events. So I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to hit space. I'm going to add a set of curly brackets, and I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and I am going to log the name of the event. Now, the reason that I'm doing this is because I want you to have some feedback about what you are accessing. I want you to make sure that your code works. So we're going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to do logger.log. We're going to open up a set of parentheses, and we are going to use single quotes and say the name of the event is, and then we'll add semicolon and a space. We'll hit the right arrow. We're now outside of the single quotes. We'll do space, add a plus, space, and then we're going to reference events, square bracket I. We're going to hit the right arrow. We're going to add dot, and we are going to get, what is it called? Get title. Yep. Okay. Get title, open parentheses, go to the end of the line, add a semicolon, and then we're going to hit run. Cool. So the first output in our console is the logging from line 10. So we're getting our events array, and we are getting a list of calendar event objects. We are then looping through each item of the events array on line 13, and then we're using logging on line 16 to log each item and its name. So you can see that the first output was our first calendar event object, and the second output was our second calendar event object. That's great. So this is showing that this is working as expected. So we're going to resume on line 16. We're going to hit enter twice. We are going to align our cursor with line 15, and we are going to add 2 slashes for a comment where we will log the ID of the event. We'll hit enter and tab, and we'll do the same thing. So we'll do logger.log, open parentheses, single quotes, the ID of the event is colon space, right arrow on your keyboard, space, plus sign, space, events, square bracket, I, right arrow on your keyboard, dot get capital ID. Open parentheses, right arrow on your keyboard twice, semicolon. Now we're going to hit run. Cool. So now we have the name of each event and the name of the event, or the ID of the event for both events here. So I want to update new event. I'm going to copy that ID. So the reason that we loop through our events is because we do not have a database with our events. So this example here is showing you how to get event IDs if you do not immediately have them. So if you're working with a calendar that somebody else is contributing to and they manually created events, this is a method as to how you can extract event IDs by triangulating around the day of the event. So now that we have a set of events and their IDs, we're going to begin updating them. So we are going to resume on line 20. We're going to hit enter twice, and we are going to use Shift Tab to align our cursor with lines 12, 6, and 3. Now, the reason that I like to align cursors is because we no longer need to look at the variables on line 4, line 7, line 10. And when you add comments like this, you have shelves so that you can collapse portions of your code. So now I'm going to collapse line 3 because I no longer need it. And I'm going to collapse line 6 because I no longer need it. And now we're just looking at our loop. And honestly, we don't even really need that. So we are going to add 2 slashes. And we are going to begin by updating the name of an event. We hit enter and tab. And now that we've done that, we can collapse line 12. And now we have this nice clean set of code where we can work because we've already established that our other logic works. And we have these little indications up here that this code block is accessing the calendar app. This code block is accessing the events in my calendar. And this code block is looping through the events variable. I think adding comments to your code is crucial and something that you should spend time practicing the same way that you would practice logic. Because when you look to collaborate with people or you look to undertake work that you did several weeks or months ago, comments will help you acclimate yourself to what the code is doing. And in situations like this, it allows you to organize yourself so that you don't have to analyze tens or hundreds of lines of code. Great. With that out of the way, we're going to use CalendarApp.getEventById. We're going to open up a set of parentheses, and all we have to do is pass the calendar ID as a string. So anytime you're entering something as a string, you need quotation marks. You can use double quotes, you can use single quotes. It doesn't matter as long as you're consistent with the rest of your project. So if you didn't do it already, your output log should have event IDs. So pick one of your events and paste it in between get event by ID. And you know what we're actually going to do here real quick is we are going to, okay, I'm going to uncomment this here. So we're going to go back to line 20 and we're going to hit enter twice and we're going to hit Shift Tab to align our cursor on line 22. And we are going to add 2 slashes for a comment and we are going to define the calendar ID. We're going to hit enter and tab. And we're going to declare a variable. You can call this variable whatever you want to. I'm going to call it cal ID. I'm going to set it equal to, and then I'm going to paste my calendar ID in there. I'm going to collapse this loop window because I don't need it anymore. The reason I'm doing this is because now you have a way to input a calendar ID in one place and then reference it programmatically, right? So we are going to, instead of hard coding our ID, we're going to create a variable so that now we can use CalendarApp.getEventById, and then we can pass that cal ID in each situation. And then if we want to, like in my case, I have 2 events. If I want to plug in this calendar ID, I can. Cool. So the first thing that we're going to do is we'll do CalendarApp.getEventById, and then either pass the variable from line 23 to get event ID or hard code your event ID in between these parentheses. We are going to then use the dot method and we are going to set, and set is where we are going to access all of the potential update options for our ID. So pause the video if you would like to, because then you can kind of look and see all the different things that you can do in here. Once you're ready, we are going to begin with set title. So I'm going to choose set title and I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. This is really simple. We just use single quotes or double quotes, and I'm going to say, check it out. We have a new title. I'm going to go to the end of the line. I'm going to add a semicolon. So in our execution log, we can see that event ID VCIFTA is belongs to an event called new event. And when I go to my calendar, you can see I have this new event there. And we are going to change that title to check it out, we have a new title. So I'm going to save my project, and then I'm going to hit run. So that completed without any issue. And you can see that we still have our calendar event list. We have the name of our first event. We have the ID of it, the second event, the second ID. But when we go to our calendar, you can see, check it out. We have a new title. Great. So that worked exactly as we wanted it to. Now, in the event that we would also like to update the other calendar, here's what I was talking about. So now, instead of using having to paste the calendar ID in here, we can paste this new ID in there, and then we'll say, this used to be test, because that was a typo. It was supposed to be test. Anyway, we're going to hit run. And you can see that this title was updated to our new title. And then we're going to go in here, and you can see that instead of being test, this is now this used to be test. So we have a mechanism for accessing our calendar ID using a variable. And that'll be great when we want to do other things. So another example that we can do is we can set a description. So in the case of set test, or this used to be test, we don't have a description here. So what we'll do now is on line 26, we'll hit enter twice. We'll align our cursor so that it's with line 25. We're going to add 2 slashes, and we are going to update the description of an event. So we're going to hit enter and tab. We're going to use CalendarApp.getEvent by ID. Open up the parentheses. We're going to pass that calendar ID variable so that we don't have to paste it everywhere. And we are going to set description. And we'll say this event now has a description. We're going to hit command right arrow, add a semicolon at the end, hit save, and then run. So when we open this up, you can see this event now has a description. So we have updated the title of one event, and then we changed the calendar ID so that we could update the title of another event and add a description. So this event also is missing a location. So what I'm going to do is resume on line 29. We're going to hit enter twice. We're going to hit shift tab, 2 slashes for a comment. We are going to update the location of an event. We're going to hit enter and tab. Same thing we've been doing. CalendarApp.get event by ID. Open up parentheses. Access the cal ID. Set location, and we're going to set that to be Florida. We're going to hit the command and right arrow on our keyboard, add a semicolon, and we are going to hit run. Cool. So we're going to go back to our calendar here. Now we can see Florida is the location. We have a new description. Wonderful. Let's do a couple in a row so that we can kind of speed this up a little bit. We can hit enter twice, shift tab to align our cursor, 2 slashes for a comment, and now we are going to update the start and end time. I'm going to hit enter and tab. We're going to use CalendarApp.getEvent by ID. We're going to open up the parentheses. We are going to pass cal ID. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, and we are going to do .set time. I'm going to hit enter, open up the parentheses. This takes 2 arguments, start time, end time. So you don't need to do start time, end time if you don't want to, but well, you might want to, because if you don't have an end time, your calendar might get busted. So we are going to have to structure them as in the date formatting that is required. So what we're going to do is begin by typing new space, capital D, date, open parentheses, and then I'm going to pass May 28, 2024. And I want this to start at 17:00:00:00. Go to the end of the line using command right arrow. Going to add a comma, hit enter. Same thing, I'm going to do new date, open parentheses, single quotes, May 28, 2024. Space, and I'm going to do 18:15:00, and I'm going to hit save. So just to check, you can see this was originally at 11:30 until 12:30. I'm going to change it to be 17, which I believe is 5 p.m. And then it went to 18, which will be, or 18:15, which will be 6:15. Now we're going to learn how to add and remove guests from an event. Now, this is a little bit annoying, but you'll have to create an array of guests that you want added or removed. So there is an add guest and a remove guest native method, but you can't call them if you're looking to add or remove more than one guest. So we're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and we are going to declare the guests we want to add or remove. We hit enter, we're going to hit tab. We are going to declare a variable of guests to modify, and we're going to hit set it to equal. We're going to add square brackets, hit enter. They need to be structured as strings, so we are going to do a single quote. I'm going to do mattbrigdy.dev +1 @gmail.com. And then I'm going to do a comma, and I will do mattbrigdy.dev +2 @gmail.com. Cool. So now we have this array of people. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and we are going to loop through the array to add our guests to the event. I'm going to hit enter and tab. So we're going to use CalendarApp.get event by ID. We're going to use our cal ID variable there. And then we are going to use dot add guest, open up a parentheses. So I just want to show you this so that you can see where the error breaks down or where the method breaks down. So the documentation says the email address of the guest. So that is singular. So if you just do a string, mattbrigdy.dev +chc, whatever, @gmail.com, and then you hit run, and we go to our calendar, you'll see originally we have Matt Brigdy as the only guest, Matt Brigdy +check. And then when I go back into it, now you can see we have Matt Brigdy +check and Matt Brigdy +chc. But if I attempted to use my guest to modify array, I get an error message. And it's saying that it has an invalid argument. And the reason for that is because add guest and remove guest can only take one guest at a time. So what we're going to do is go back to line 45, hit enter, hit tab. We're going to use a for loop, open parentheses. We're going to use the variable of I in guest to modify. We're going to hit the right arrow, hit space, add curly brackets. We're going to go to line 47. We're going to copy that calendar event.get event by ID, cal ID. Go in between the curly brackets, hit enter, paste it in. And now when we run it, oh, interesting. Oh, sorry. Instead of doing guest to modify, we are going to do square bracket I. That way we can iterate through it. And now you can see it compiles without error. And we go back, and now you can see that we have those new email addresses added in. So the same thing works for if you wanted to remove a guest. So we're going to highlight this, and I'm actually going to hit enter there, 2 slashes for a comment, and say logic to add more than one guest. And then I'm going to hit enter twice, shift tab, and I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment, logic to remove more than one guest. I'm going to hit enter and tab. paste in my code, and instead of add guest, it's dot remove guest. So I'm going to comment out lines 47 and 48. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to hit run. Go back to my calendar app. And now you can see that the guests in the array have been removed from the event.